In this video, I would like to show you what is happening at Bitcoin first and whether to expect further growth on ALT. Look, that is, yes, that I have an open long there now, here 115 with something. And on the 4 o'clock, this is the 4 o'clocks, I said this in the previous video. I am now waiting for the formation of some side clock. This is the range. Here it is practically here, and is being implemented. That is, we have jumped back from the lower border quite strongly. And the volume here was straight very high. Yes, in Powell's speech, which in principle allowed the reduction of the rates. And for me now, the retention of the long, if purely by the technical picture, can be canceled. In what scenario? Top trigger, if we go down smoothly and shut down this green candle. If the price absorbs this huge volume, in this case, you can close in a partial loss. About here, on the mark there, $110,000, $111,000. I also think for myself what I will do next. And there is no need to wait, in principle, for the point of cancellation of the script that I put here. That is, the technical foot is already, yes, a stop trigger when fixing the day candle below a certain level. Because if we block this volume, and with a high probability, the scenario of this double top is realized. And it can be realized as sharply here down, somewhere here, in a negative scenario. In other words, the negative bad news. There will be inflation. There will be more. It does not matter. Or it will be a overlap, a jump back again, a attempt to jump back, a failure. It will not be possible to remove this hail, and gradually we are already here. That is, but as long as this does not happen, the price is in the side. And for me, this shot at such a volume is technically always the first attempt to break this local descending structure. Now the price is in all the popular mewing, but again, it is inside the day. It is not on the day. It is the 200th main white, the 50th yellow, and the 100th green. Usually there is a second attempt, i.e. somewhere else. Here. I've taken this hole and this hole often. Here's the R3 last week, here the new week opens. Here the price approximately comes for the retest. Either we draw a dealer here and go down, or we really break through the stock and update ETH. Here are two scenarios. Which one will be, I do not know. But considering that the overall trend is still going up on the older time frames, I always prefer to go up. If I would give preference down, I would shorten. But I'm just longing. This was about the price chart and purely technical price analysis. And another option, as long as Bitcoin here comes out, it tries to break something here or adjusts here. In short, here is the side wheel and it remains. This is a good time for the alpha. At this time, the altar is shooting. Well, you see what the broadcast did, yes. On Friday, you can see how well the altar jumped off. That is, as long as Bitcoin is in the side, domination will be distributed. The altar will grow. And the longer this will continue, the better for the altar. Now let's go to blockchain. In blockchain, if you look at the heat map, in general, we see the same thing here. Here I will remind you how it is read. The warmer the color, the closer to red, the greater the volume of liquidity traded was made within this price range. Saint 2 is what I tell you, what these two levels are well visible. A very large amount was traded, where the bulls protected their lower levels. The bears tried to break him. At that point, the bulls lost. And now the price will try to jump back from that level. Not from the bottom up, but from the top down. This level falls at the mark of approximately 117.1. Now I will say directly to the country $119,500, $120,000. Here in this range, 117, 120 is now a very strong resistance. And so, in my script, I look forward to trying to retest this range anyway. Here it is somewhere 117, 120 here, this range. And here I will decide what I will do next. Depending on how we get into that range, it will depend heavily on how we reach that range. In what way? Maybe, go down even lower and only then here, welcome. That is, this will have a great impact on the further decision. If we do not hold it, if we do not keep it, then the following strong levels, well, in principle, are visible. Starting here, ending somewhere, there is a strong liquidity. That is, roughly speaking, it is from notes 109,500 to notes a conditional 104,000. This is the 5,000 range. Here will be the next good attempt for long. There I have, by the way, stands about in these marks and a stop trigger under the daytime frame. And if I decide to close earlier, then I'll just move on. Also with a high probability. Here is... And further, that this is a general side character also says the picture of realized losses. Not just realized losses. I look at the correct charts, i.e. losses adjusted to the substance. Email, that is, when we look at losses on individual entities that can own many wallets, instead of just taking all the wallets in a row and looking at them losses. This is wrong. It is right to look at one person or one organization, which can own large wallets, not just one. And here we also see the side nature of the movement. That is, this is it in essence. All these losses are approximately in this range. There are losses in millions of dollars, and they don't pop up for 150 million as a rule. This is how Bovich started, and so he continues. Here's his boundary, here they went. As soon as we get some way out, suddenly, unexpectedly out of this side, for example, by losses, how it was, where to say if it can be, here. There was also a conditional sidewashing on losses. This is the one. Station 410 and beyond, we get Trump's unexpected 3rd of February. I think everyone remembers that date. Well, 25th to this year. And here we come out of this range, then most likely the trade continues in the direction of receiving this stick. This is either a realized profit or a realized loss. You can, by the way, see, here he is, right? The same, yes, here we see how this metric works. Here we are in the sidewalk. The border itself does not break, and suddenly we break the border sharply. This is like this. This is like this shot. After all this trouble. As usual continues, and we continue it, and now we are back in the buckwheat. Where the first line comes out, either in profit or in loss, there the trend will most likely continue. And further, realized profit with volatility correction. There is also such a metric with a 7-day smoothing. Here, in principle, the same remains the side. But the only thing I will comment on is that I don't like it here, probably, that here we had a peak amount of profit, which closed the past. That's good, it's not a divergence. But then we updated the peak at the mark of $125,000, and the volume of profit with the correction on volatility, he has fallen. And now we have a divergence here, which we now have some time on the idea or should work on, or turn out. But given the strength of the trend on the older time frames, I'm still sliding more so far, I would emphasize the bump to the side with the distribution of some time alta. And in addition to confirming this scenario, I also take liquidations on the air. On the air, I take liquidations. We had a very big liquidation on Friday. On August 22nd, 23, the transition is very large. And as a rule, after such liquidations, we update the top to at least draw the discrepancy, where the first liquidation was indicated. This is the top. Girl, that is the top was, yes, on the mark there we updated ATH. By the way, I congratulate everyone. 4 there, 888. I think there was ATH. If we look at the stories, such here are big racing on charter liquidations. Be it here, for example, here. Be it Friday jump here. I don't know if there's a jump here. Or that was already falling. We see rising trends. The trend is rising. For example, there was a big jump here too. They usually always continue. At least one of the first differences. What is here that there were some differences here? That here this leap was already in the current climb. I'm looking forward to at least a small update. That is, there are 4,900, 5,000 maybe. I have the last teak there. That is, this is another confirmation that at least, someone attempt at alta still has to break through. Or the ether breaks and goes to correction, begins to give alter the inventory. Or the broadcast breaks and goes on. No one knows how many of these differences will be, but at least 2 still draw from this stick. The stick was very strong. At the moment, $163 million on average per day of short liquidation. That is very and very much. Very much. We have renewed the liquidation force. There are no major differences. Also my long on the air, which I gave publicly. The final tag stands at the 4,900 final mark. It did not come straight a little. From 1211 backs did not come. So what do we have here? From the block I gave for ransom, I bought off two limits, namely 43.50 and 40.70. Again is yes. I've spoken on the radio in the past. Split three limits, up, down, and center, located on the 40.70 mark. The hit was 40.60. It is on Binance. It was enough for BB2. In the Baobab? And a second. Someone opened it. By the way, it was 40.59. Here is, and now the average entry we have somewhere here. Here, from the average entry, the maximum rose by more than 14%. And now the profit from the average entry is somewhere around 12%. The first stream I closed 46.40, the second 4,900 is worth. Let's see what happens next. But by the idea of a global layout, a global is retained. This figure looks at 6,400. What I gave in the past, I do not know how. Or, well, go into a deeper correction, well, walk here, we're gathering strength, and then we'll get to 6,400. Or something will happen, such a straight, very good and pleasant, and we will go there sharply. And only then, well, come back, it's here. This is the criterion of liquidity, in a bear, for example. And while the air looks strong, it also makes sense to lengthen and... This is as far as the current picture is concerned. That is, if summarizing in the battle, now I am still more inclined to another attempt to throw. 117, 120. This is the zone, or so, or somehow so. And here is the decision. What will happen next, we will see how this cast will be. That is, for some time, the price will still remain in the side. And while the side is going, the altar will still grow. The Ether will most likely update its high again. I don't know how much, but I'll have to take 4,900. Thanks to everyone. If you were interested, please like. I will be recording videos with a blockchain review more often.